Talking about assisted living facilities and ensuring your loved ones are being properly cared for. Attorney David Ayler joins us now with an overview of everything. And David, welcome. And this is something that we've talked about before, but it's a big issue. So let's just start with, if you have a loved one in assisted living,
right?
How could you start to see problems arise?
Well, I think the key part of there is seeing it. Unfortunately, a lot of times when people have loved ones in retirement communities or assisted living, sometimes they may, because they live out of town, or really just busy throughout the day, that they don't get by enough. They're not paying enough attention, and that's usually where we often see problems arise.
Okay, so you're out of town when you're going to visit. Now, there's key things you should look for?
Right, there's going to be a lot of key things. One, you always want to pay attention to the medicines. Now, obviously, you may not have a medical background, but just kind of making sure that the medicines are there and that they look like that they're being provided to, the dates of the medicines, what they are, determining if there's like a list, because a lot of those type of things sometimes get sort of put by the wayside, and then ultimately it can, end up hurting the person a lot more than maybe even before they got there.
Is there a daily report that you should ask for of their medicines? How can you keep track of something, especially if you're not living in town?
Well, it really depends on what the condition of the person is. Obviously, different people need certain amounts of care. You have some of these type of facilities where actually there is no daily care that even comes. It's just available there if you need it. Then you have ones that are all the way up to, hourly care. So depending on where your loved one stands, I think that sort of the documentation of what they're doing and how much they're doing is going to be based upon that. But you always want to make sure that, whether it be someone who is completely on their own and just has that sort of, availability of a potential helper if they need one, a nurse, a nurse's assistant, or as compared to someone who may be bedridden, you do want to sort of know where it stands and what at least the standard level is that they're getting, probably before you even bring them in there.
Sure. So someone watching right now who's faced maybe with a difficult decision of putting a loved one in an assisted living facility, what are the key things you should look for when you're touring these places?
Well, you first of all want to do your background prior to even getting there. Of course, when you go there, they're going to try to put the best foot forward, like any business would when they're trying to sell their services. So the best way to do that is really to look. There's a few different websites. You can find a lot of reviews. One thing I always encourage people to do is once they do go to these facilities, ask if they can speak with someone who has a loved one there, somebody that maybe has had one there for a while, because unfortunately a lot of times these decisions are rushed, and then ultimately you'll see some serious injury, even death at times, from just lack of care.
Now, is this something that you see in your business, where people have had someone living in one of these facilities, they're not happy with it, and then they come to you?
Right. You see this a lot. A lot of times, unfortunately, neglect and things like that happens within these facilities goes unnoticed to a large degree until something really bad happens. But at that point, you definitely want to make sure that you speak with an attorney. I have people that come to my office for it all the time, and other lawyers in the town here do it as well, and simply because something has happened that shouldn't have happened, and that's happened on the watch of these facilities that you're paying, and it can be sometimes unnoticed simply because of maybe the other conditions the loved one already has.
So when you step in, what can you do if they suspect there's mistreatment or abuse or whatever?
Well, you want to get that diagnosed. Obviously, you're going to do that through the medical treatment they've already received. You may bring in experts outside of that, and then determine what else can be done. There's going to be insurance coverage involved a lot of times in these homes, and then sometimes you have to go against the home itself.
All right, Attorney David Ayler, and just always wise advice. So before you put someone in one, obviously research.
Absolutely. Research is the #1 thing that you want to do every time.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Trial
having me.
Tuesday with Attorney David Ayler. And we've got much more, so stick with us right here on Low Country Live.